Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a video on the latest update to hit upcoming action RPG, Wolcen. Now, I've been covering Wolcen on this channel for years, and I know a lot of people, myself included, have gone from being really hyped about this game to that hype increasingly fading as more and more time elapses and we're just not seeing the amount of progress and development in pushing towards a release that we'd hoped for. Well, in this video, I'm going to explain why I am once again riding the Wolcen hype train. There's still a lot of room for improvement, there's still a lot that needs to be done, but after what I feel to be a long drought, we've now seen something big, something to give us hope once again. Now, the main exciting thing that this content update brought was Act 1 of the campaign, and we're going to show the opening sequence to that a little bit later in this video because it is very strong. Visually, Wolcen continues to impress. This is the only action RPG that I have played that truly looks like a next-gen action RPG from an aesthetic perspective. So while I was very impressed by the presentation, by the razzle-dazzle at first, as I loaded in with my first character through the introductory sequence and got to actual gameplay, I do have to admit that my excitement came crashing down rather rapidly as I found the gameplay to be rather clunky. Now, let me explain. I opted to go for a staff-wielding spellcaster build. In Wolcen, there are no classes. The weapon you wield will determine what skills are available to you, and how you build your passive tree will effectively determine your class, with there being sections for warrior, mage, and roguish archetypes, but you can mix and match however you want. Currently, if you opt to go with a staff wielder, you're basically locked into being a pure mage, which, as it turns out, is currently the most underpowered build you can go with in the game, and this has been conceded by the developers. They're aware of the issue and they do plan on addressing it, on upping the power level of the mage. So getting back to that clunkiness that I was feeling, I would shoot a fireball and then it would feel like an eternity before I'd be able to move, dodge, do anything to evade incoming attacks. And this comes down to animation canceling. There's a long animation that plays at the tail end of the fireball, and you can't do anything until that animation ends. So I rapidly abandoned the fireball, swapped to a different main attack skill, and thereafter, things felt a lot better. I effectively had to pick my skills around the seeming clunkiness and the issues with the animations playing out. But once I sort of understood what we were dealing with and was able to work around it, gameplay became much smoother. And as a promising note, the developers are aware of the animation problems and they do intend to help by introducing animation canceling. That's effectively allowing you to stop an animation, interrupt it before it finishes playing out in order to perform another action. So I was putting together a build that I was feeling happy with, I was enjoying the playstyle, but then the best that I can really describe the difficulty of this game is, if we were to make a sort of chart here, you're going along and the difficulty is kind of up and down a bit and then goes up and goes down a bit and then suddenly spikes through the ceiling as you encounter just a couple enemy types that I found to be incredibly difficult to deal with. They have these attacks that are immensely deadly, and not just one, but a whole bunch of them. So they're monsters that have a wide arsenal of weapons in their toolkit. They're on you, they're doing huge damage spikes, and if you're not constantly dodging and evading, I was finding that you're basically dead. So I was able to rapidly learn the attack patterns. One thing the game does very well is telegraph these attacks. So if you're paying attention and you can study the monsters, you can see, okay, he's getting ready to do this attack, I can dodge this. That's something I like very much. I like when difficulty is through a skill check rather than a gear check. In other words, sometimes games throw damage at you that you cannot evade in any way. It comes down to your gear, your build. Do you have the toughness to survive this? Whereas a skill check is, well, do you have the skill and the knowledge and the memory to be able to completely evade this damage and survive this? I think skill checks are far more interesting, and that's one thing that the game does very well. However, despite me being able to know all the attacks the monster was doing, I still found myself basically kiting it backwards across half the level and taking what felt like 5 minutes to kill it. It just felt like, for how deadly its attacks were, it had way too much health, and it would just take way too long to take out these monsters. Especially when they happen to coincide and you'd get two different really bad mob types together, then plus they also spawn as elites, for instance. It was just a nightmare. That said, as I was going through this, I did have the understanding at the back of my mind, okay, I'm playing the most undertuned build in this game. I don't know if the content is too difficult or if just my build is terrible and it wouldn't be too difficult for a different build. So with the mage build, I found that I was able to get through the content, but it really was a slog at times. So eventually I just gave in and I decided to completely change up my build. So I spent the required resources to respec my character, and before I even had the build fully together, I was making some kind of a hybrid caster / warrior type of build. Before I even had it fully together, and I was still wearing half of my old gear that didn't really help with my new build, already a night and day difference in both power level and fun. Basically, the build I put together, the build you're seeing in the gameplay, is a melee type with the ability to cast spells. So it's effectively a hybrid build, and this is something that I've wanted for this game from the beginning. I've wanted hybrid builds to be viable, to be powerful, and I love the hybrid gameplay. And it all hinges on the resource mechanics of this game. You have willpower and you have rage. Willpower is your mana that just naturally generates, and you use that to cast spells. And as you use up willpower, you generate rage. And rage is used for your melee powers. And as you consume rage, you generate more willpower. So there's this nice synergy between the two. And if you go for a pure spellcaster, a staff wielder, you have no ability to spend your rage ever. But as a hybrid, you can now access this awesome duality, this back and forth, which I found to be amazingly fun. So in this build, I'm still very much a melee character. That's where my damage comes from. But I'm using spells that support me, that buff me, that grant me utility. So I have a teleport power that lets me zoom across the battlefield to go engage enemies. And as I'm doing that, I'm spending a bunch of willpower and thus generating rage such that when I encounter an enemy, I have a bunch of rage built up already. And then I'm popping off my freeze and my heals as I'm bringing on the damage with my rage attacks. And it feels so good and engaging and fun. And those enemies that I was really struggling with on my pure caster, I wasn't struggling anymore. They were still difficult encounters, but they weren't Dark Souls level challenges anymore. I didn't have to kite them across the battlefield. It didn't take me 5 minutes to kill them. Were they still potentially deadly fights? Absolutely. But they didn't drag out to a ridiculous length of time. So my experience playing this latest content update, my sort of excitement or interest over time, started off at a pretty decent level once I'd seen the preview trailer. Then it went really high as I went through the campaign intro, dipped increasingly downward as I experienced the pretty negative experience of mage gameplay, and then went back up again as I got to the hybrid gameplay. Now what I'm going to do here is just shut up and let you folks watch the first few minutes just to show you why I was so engaged, why I was so impressed with something that I really didn't expect, and something that kind of explains, well, this is what they've been working on this whole time but couldn't show us. Let's roll it.
Permission to deal with the flayers.
The clock
ticks, Malus. We need to get through to engage the Brotherhood of Dawn before daybreak.
We won't make it in time if we're pinned down.
Take my children, silence the archers. The rest will march on.
Grand Inquisitor, purity and sacrifice. Siege ladder, down! On me!
Ha! Told you Hemlock would send us.
Yeah, I'm not betting with you again.
Focus!
I want those ledges clean!
Time to shine.
Forward!
Purity and sacrifice.
Republic. Get them down! Get them all down!
A bomber.
You will burn, Republican trash!
Good riddance.
We'll flay you alive! Huh? You hear that? I gotcha!
Malus is stuck on an upper ledge, but we have to move forward.
We'll lose a lot of men if the cliff collapses!
Right now, I'm more worried about these bloody souls being puked out of the earth.
Right, let's keep it together. We move as one and do what we do best. Wait, you smell that?
Sulfur!
A demon.
We can't handle it. We need to get back to the purifiers now.
The air's freezing.
Soul magic. What the hell happened here?
He's one of us.
A scout.
Hey, soldier, you alright? Where's the rest of your squad? Soldier?
Who's alone?
He's in shock. Leave him be.
Shut up.
Who's alone?
Shut up!
We don't have time for this. Let's move! I'm not alone!
Val! You're gonna owe me big time.
I praise your resilience, mortal. You will make a fine host.
Val, it's now or never.
Now come to me. Come to me and be reborn in service of the Sleeper.
Purifiers only serve mankind, demon.
I do not request. I command.
Purity and sacrifice! I can't. He's too strong. Val, I need you now!
Be at peace. For soon you shall be no more. Disappointing.
You owe me an explanation. Let's go, let's go!
So I'm once again hyped about Wolcen. That said, there's still a lot to be done. We haven't seen the crafting system. There's still a lot that needs to be implemented. There's still a lot of tuning that needs to happen, balancing, more things added. But I believe we're seeing some promising signs here. They've reiterated that they are aiming for a late 2019 release. But one thing I need to clarify here right at the end, because I understand that some people misinterpret me. If I cover a game, that doesn't mean that I'm saying buy this game. If I'm making a YouTube video about a product, that's not me saying buy this product. I seek to bring information, I seek to bring opinion, but I'm not telling you how to spend your money. And when it comes to products that have not yet released, I refuse to give recommendations. A lot of people come by my streams and they ask, hey, do you recommend buying this, be it Wolcen or any other game? If it is in alpha, if it is in beta, I never say yes, and it's not because I don't like the game, and it's not because I don't think the game is good or fun, but if a game has not yet released, there is no guarantee to you that if you spend money now, that by the time it releases, it will be what you want it to be. My advice is always, if you want to support the developers, if you don't care whether you actually get something at the end, then sure, go for it. Just understand that you're not so much as buying a product as you are investing in a company to develop that product. And that's going to wrap up this video. But do leave a comment with your thoughts on Wolcen. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more aRPG content.